I want people to know that we're going for 8:30 time because I
Did you
want
say he would or
people
he
that are going
wouldn't?
to work with us next year early.
All right, what up? Stuart Anderson here. This is episode 90 of the new Duole podcast. It was supposed to be kind of like a special edition extra podcast, but it turned into a hour-long discussion with 5 of the dudes that race in our LOTOJA group Cat 3-4. We'll introduce them on the podcast itself, but there were 6 dudes that raced this LOTOJA Cat 3-4 race. And if you don't know, LOTOJA, it's a race at the end of the season, every season for almost 40 years now. 200 miles from Logan to Jackson, 204 miles, about 9,000 feet of climbing, and a big race for our group. You'll hear the guys kind of talk about it as a end of year goal, kind of the pinnacle of everything that they do, and so it's a fun thing to hear. And they had a really special day. So they went. The gold standard used to be under 10 hours, right? That was like the goal. Like everybody wanted to do 10 hours. And now somehow we've morphed into, well, we can do under 9 hours. Todd did that a few years ago, Todd Racker. And now this group, you'll hear from them. They set out with the goal to do sub 9 hours, which they accomplished along with one podium with Jason Lang and a few there in the top 10. So you'll hear their story, how they planned, their goals, and kind of how they took care of the day and each other and how it unfolded. So a fun episode with these 5. It's hard to stay succinct and keep moving, but hopefully you enjoy it. It was a fun hour talking with these guys who are all planning on coming back next year and trying again with new lofty goals. When they say that they could have gone faster, it's pretty wild to hear. So a fun day for these guys. Grateful for the time they spent here. Thankful, a couple announcements. Grateful for Corby, who put together a really fun mileage and climbing challenge last week. Super cool to have a guy like Corby and Cycling Upgrades as part of our sponsorship. Such a fun contest to watch. A lot of dudes go out 300 plus miles last week, and then Corby does a one-day race. Salt to Sinners or Salt to Saint, does like 430 miles in a single day and wins his own contest, although he graciously passed on the prizes to others. So really grateful for him, thankful for his example and then his sponsorship. So really fun. We've got a kit order that is coming. It's the last one of the season, so that's on its way along with our 40th anniversary kits. They're on their way, and a few fun podcasts in the works. So Truman Glasgow's coming up. We're going to do Dean Walker, Jameson Rice, and Justin Spangler. So calendar's full. We got a lot of dudes coming on that you'll get to hear their story. All right, one last thing. I've been reading a really cool book, Atomic Habits. I read it, every year or so as I start to set goals. And there is a chapter 9, which I just wanted to highlight, kind of a synopsis of how it works. Here's a quote. It says, "The culture we live in determines which behaviors are attractive to us. We tend to adopt habits that are praised and approved of by our culture because we have a strong desire to fit in and belong to the tribe." I thought that was very applicable to the team, applicable to these men who we praise and recognize as being some of our best riders, not only for the race that they accomplished, but for the way that they did it. There's been nothing but praise and just a great day for everybody that was surrounding them and with this group. So grateful for them, thankful for their example, and for the great day they had at LOTOJA. All right, enjoy this little podcast with them, and hopefully you learn a few things and have some laughs. All right, enjoy. All right, what up? Welcome to this special, I'm just going to call this special episode, special edition of the Duole podcast. A lot of social pressure to produce this episode. Look at these fine gentlemen. Greetings, young men. We are looking at the Cat 3-4 LOTOJA. I mean, we're going to dig into this race and talk about, we were just discussing how deep does it go here? Do we divulge all secrets? Do we lay it all out on the table? I can see Justin smiling. Look at him grinning.
Yeah, tell them all.
Okay.
Open book.
You want to each introduce yourselves? Justin, you
Sure.
go first.
Okay.
Justin Spangler, relatively new cyclist, started cycling in 2020. Historically been like a marathoner, half marathoner, and then decided that it hurt my body too much. So really became fully invested in cycling this year, 2023.
And first, it's his first LOTOJA.
Yeah, first LOTOJA. Really like my first of like all the races here in Utah.
Yeah.
Pretty much did most of them this year. And, was inspired by Welch back in the day to get on the bike. When I moved back from Austin, I was like, hey, you're on this team. Let me join.
That's a great lead in. Ryan Welch, you want to introduce yourself?
Yep. Ryan Welch. Been part of the team since 2018. We went over a little bit of my background on that episode that I was on, but just loving every minute of it. I don't know what else I should say. I live in Mill Creek like everybody else. It's great.
But you had a great your LOTOJA history.
Oh yeah, good call. So this was number 4 for me. 3 of them have been with Todd, which has been glorious. Trying to keep on his wheel. So first year we did Cat 5s, took 4th. Second year, 4 5s. I was like 11th or something. Crashed that year a few times. Last year, placed first in 4 5s. And then this year, we'll go into it. So,
yes. All right, Jack Bourne.
All right. No, I'm glad to be here, Stu. Thanks for organizing this. I am Jack Bourne. I've really been cycling for about 3 years and got serious about it last year. Lost a bunch of weight, started doing structured training, started talking to Lang, which turns out to be that leads you down some dark paths in terms of
that's a daily adventure.
It's a slippery slope.
That's a daily adventure. Learned that you should trust
place.
some things Lang says and some shouldn't trust some things he says. So
you never know if he'll show up with a new bike each ride.
Exactly. Yeah, what he said on Monday is like, bikes don't matter. Coming from the guy that has a new bike every ride.
They're just for fun.
They're for fun. That's what he said.
But this is LOTOJA number 3 for me. First one was kind of a just total joke. Wanted to do it with friends. Last year was more serious about it. Won the 5s, so I was the fastest fat person out there, which was great. And then did the 3 4s this year with everybody. So
Jack, also a very faithful supporter of the team as a sponsor on your jersey. If you didn't know that or not, thank you, Jack. Very grateful for your support of the team.
Epic Ventures, glad to be here.
Very good. Mr. Todd, welcome.
Yeah, Todd Racker. I started riding in 2018. Rode kind of by myself for that first year. Actually met Kirby that first year, Greg Hoole, that group of guys. It was Andy Welch that introduced me to the group. Showed up in 2019 with my green helmet, ankle socks.
Yep.
Rest is history. That was the first year. That year I did not do LOTOJA 2019. The first year I started with the group, I did not do LOTOJA. 2020, that was the year with Welch. The infamous, discussion 2 miles out on who's going to take first. Cody King and I said, hell with the
we should race for it. What do you think? We should race
for it. Yeah. So Cody and I, went for it and took first that year. The second year, that was the infamous sub-9 year, kind of similar to this year, which we'll get into, but just a solid group. Everyone wanted to work hard, scrappy 4 5s. Ended up taking 4th that year. And then last year, Masters 35, I think Lang, that was the year with Lang, Harmon, Chaw. We had a good group. Took second that year, and then and now this year. So 4 total. So
dude, 3 of you guys have won your category before.
Mm-hmm.
Come on. Okay, Lang, you go.
All right, Jason Lang. I've been on here before a few times.
First LOTOJA, I can't even really remember when I started cycling, to be honest, but I think it was the Zwift winter of 2019. When I started dabbling in it in 2020, kind of started riding more full time. First LOTOJA, first race ever actually was LOTOJA 2020. Jumped in the Masters A group with Stu and had a good year, but didn't really understand the race or how to race. So I got dropped over salt, tried to chase, but ended up being in the second group. I think I took ninth.
You lost your glasses because you lost your glasses.
Glasses flew off my face, descending, trying to chase, but there was a lot of other things. Chip told me that I could take a minute or two at the first stop in Montpelier, and then when I put my feet down, I was like, "Oh wait, everyone's gone."
Lane came out of the porta potty, and everybody was gone.
So I chased back on, and I just didn't understand. I was kind of way out of position at Salt when everybody went, but good learning experience. Then next year came in with the lead group, but started cramping at the end and kind of fell off and in the last mile and rolled in. And then I think I finished ninth again that year. And then the next year was with Todd, where I took fourth. Good group coming in that year. That was last year. And then this year took fifth with a good group of dudes here.
Okay, great introductions. We learned a lot here that it's going to take a while for each of you to respond, which is good. That's all good. Why don't we, how about this? Rate how important LOTOJA is on a scale of 1 to 10. Meaning I'm training for it every ride. I'm thinking about it all summer. My season success hangs on this. How serious is this race for each of you?
I would say like a 9 out of 10. It was like one of my overarching goals from the very beginning of the year. It was all leading up to LOTOJA. It's kind of the climax of the season.
I love climax. Okay.
Yep. It's the only one Spangler ever gets once a year. So sorry.
Edit that.
For me, I've had. Leave it in. We'll just put a warning. I've had 4 good years. I mean, there's a lot of maybe I put a little bit of pressure on myself, but it's not just the 4 good years. I mean, it's just such a fun day, it's everything's gone right. I haven't had those bad days. Even if I had, I don't know if it would affect me that much, but I think of it a lot. Like every morning I wake up, at 5:00 and you don't want to ride. It's like, it does give you that little extra push. I've never not had it hanging over me, so I don't know what it's like otherwise, but I say I'm kind of in Spangler's boat, 9 to 10.
Nice. Okay. Ryan?
Yeah. It's the end all be. No, I'm just kidding. No, it is important though. And I'm kind of in the same boat as Todd, where we've done it a number of times. And I remember we had a few conversations like mid-August about if we had felt that fatigue that others on the team had. And I still haven't felt it even after this year. I'm still really enjoying it. And I think it's kind of the thing that I'm leading up to all year long. And I know I'll do other races next year, but yeah.
Cool. Jack?
I'm gonna be the lone that says 10 out of 10 on it. 10 out of 10 for doing LOTOJA for me. And I just mean a day of the race stuff happens, right? You never know how you're actually going to feel, and you may have mechanical. I've been fortunate to not really have anything crazy, but one, it's nice to have something that's big enough that requires you to really prep all year for it. It's good motivation in January or February, and then 2, it's it's such a fun day, so anything can happen in 200 miles. You make new friendships, you get to know each other better. I think it's like when it becomes really interesting being part of Duole, being part of the team. So for me, it's 10 out of 10, great motivation for the rest of the season.
I love that. Nice. Jason, what do you think?
Oh, it's pretty tough. I mean, I'd probably say the importance is around 7 out of 10. I mean, when I show up to a race, I'm in it. Like I want to win it. I'm there to win. I'm there to work hard.
But I try and race throughout the season, so maybe there's less importance on it. It's not the only one. It's not everything make or break, but kind of where LOTOJA falls in the season, right at the end of the season, the summer builds all the way up to it. All of your big rides build to it. It's hard to not have it mean so much because, I mean, it's a huge day. It's a huge expense. It's everything leads up to it. So I try and downplay it, but it's important.
Huge climax. Huge climax.
Huge.
Well, me and Lang talked about this like multiple times, like, and he alluded to it right then. You know, it's a big expense. Like most of the races I've done this season are just like, you know, hop in my car the morning of and drive down there and then be back before noon. This one, you're like gone all day, the day before, the day after.
Yeah.
You know, my family didn't come up with me. So not only is that kind of a sacrifice being away from home, but it's a sacrifice for my wife to take care of all the kids the whole time. So you want to have a good day. You build up to it. It's all you think about all summer. But then when it finally comes, it's a sacrifice for a lot of people more than just yourself riding in the saddle. It's for the people around you too.
So one thing for listeners, if you're not on the team, a lot of cyclists on our squad do this race. So last year we had over 50. I'm not sure how many this year. We had a little dip, maybe 45 or so, 40. But organizing the groups is always kind of a thing. Who's going to race where? Because we usually max out the 8 per group. And so I don't know how you guys were organized, but I don't think you all signed up in this category together. Yeah, right. How did this happen? Like who was the instigator that was like, let's move all of us into this category?
So I'm gonna take the lead here. I feel like it started at team camp. So Spangler and I stayed in the same house with Zach Pape, which sadly he couldn't be here this evening, but he was also part of our group. And the three of us were kind of deliberating whether we should do, you know, the Cat 3-4s. We had found out that night that there was no Cat 4, so it was either 4-5s or 3-4s. And a number of us had already done the 4-5s, and we just decided at that time, me, Zach, and Justin, to kind of send it into the 3-4s and see what would happen. And then anybody else can take it from there, because I know there was obviously some deliberation in the summer that got us to the point where we were all in the same spot. So
that was Lang and I were the only ones in 35As. I wasn't too excited about it this year. It was kind of one of those that kind of felt like a burden kind of leading up to it. This summer, it was kind of, you know, not say Lang isn't fun to ride with, but it was just us two, right? That's part of the fun. It was like, you know, did it not have as much emphasis this year? Was it not a big of a group? I was still excited though. It was more, there was no kind of wild card, right? We knew what we were getting. We rode it last year. We figured it was the same group. It was actually going to be a smaller group. And I just pulled it up on my phone, August 17th at 11:27 a.m. Spangler texted Lang and I both. It's like, hey, what do I have to do to convince you to switch into our group? And I'm like, that's kind of was like, after that, I was really excited because it just added a whole nother dynamic, right? It's like, we know this group, it's a fast group. We, you know, everyone's willing to hammer. That's what got Lang and I it was like 2 days before the deadline. So
but
Jack was poking me. Jack was poking me for a week all the way leading up to it too.
Yep. And Todd and me talked at our Monday Me Duole ride. We were right by each other.
Yeah.
And he was like, we're thinking about doing it. And I was like, yeah, come do it. Like, it'd be fun. It'd be great. Like, come do it.
I don't know, Lane, did you feel that same sentiment? I was just kind of, we knew it was going to be a smaller 35 group. There was only like 15 folks in there this year.
Right.
Because Team Real and us weren't in there. You don't realize, again, that's like 15 people right there between us and them. Not saying I wasn't excited. But this definitely.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, Todd called me and we kind of talked through it, and we just said it'll be, I mean, part of LOTOJA is the fun day with your teammates, and it wasn't going to be the same day that it has been in the past. So switching to the 3-4s, it just made it a day regardless of, you know, win or lose. You get to spend a day with your good buddies.
Right.
Yeah. You know, one thing that, and trust me, I've spent a lot of time reading the race recaps of everyone in your group, their little notes and stuff. But one thing that always happens, I've been on 6 different group threads of LOTOJA, what's going to happen text threads. Well, when we get to Strawberry and somebody attacks, what are we going to do? Okay, so your group, this little text group, when did you start strategizing? Like what was going, I'm not saying like what was going to happen, but there is one thing. If you read what happened, this group, you men controlled the group from the beginning. When and how did you guys kind of strategy what you wanted the day to look like?
That
Jack,
day we switched.
Yeah, I was just looking back at our texts, and we started to text each other right at that moment.
Yeah, I think once Todd and Jason said like, yeah, we're in it, we're moving, we all had the goal from like that moment to do sub 9.
Sub 9.
Like it was like we have the engines and the strength, and the 6 of us, with Zach included, to get us sub 9. Let's like do it together. Let's all do this. So,
because I mean that's what happened. I mean, 2 years ago, again, there was no secret sauce. It was, we just, you know, we had 8-10 of us that all wanted to ride hard and no games, and it was kind of from the start. It was like, if we can just set that pace up front, you know, and we weren't, I don't know, I don't think we were going too fast, right? There was maybe, we could have even got a little faster. It was comfortable. Mm-hmm. But I do have to say, you know, here's our
Todd was comfortable at LOTOJA. Todd was comfortable riding.
I mean, the first 70 miles, right? We weren't burning up. Here's our thread, LOTOJA 3-4, and I don't know who it was, but they changed the icon to a broom, right? We were talking, how cool would that be? How cool would that be if we could all get on the podium? I thought that last year with Lang, right? We had enough of us. There was 8 of us. Is like, how cool would that be if we could all podium, right? So there were I would say there were some wild things thrown out there, but nothing nothing that I necessarily rolled my eyes at. You know, there was some lofty goals, but it was realistic.
But I think overarchingly, we all knew that we wanted to set a fast pace early, and we all had the goal of sub 9 from the get-go.
Okay, great. I want you to each respond. You can do it quick. How did you each feel when you arrived race day? Was anybody like not confident? Was anybody? You can be vulnerable here, or were you all just like, I'm primed, I'm peaking, I'm gonna hang on? I mean, what was your mindset when you guys arrived Saturday morning?
I was we always go to St. George the week before, and I felt like I may have tapered too hard. I mean, it didn't really affect, you know, we're in St. George. The weather was crappy. I didn't get my usual rides in down there, which didn't matter. No, probably not, but psychologically, I thought maybe a little bit, but I was a little more, we all know that lady's voice at the start line. It's the same lady every year, right? You hear that voice and just brings back all these. I was probably a little more relaxed this year than years past, but
okay. Jack, how about you? How are you feeling?
I had a cold the week before. It's terrible luck, and it felt like it was the worst Friday. And I just remember telling my wife, like, I thought I had kind of 2 races in front of me. The race where I was a disaster and like totally sick, despite, you know, 9 months of training or whatever. And, you know, fell off at Strawberry and then just, you know, tried to find friends all day. Or maybe I'd feel fine and, you know, it's a good day. And so night before I was very concerned, you know, slammed a bunch of melatonin to try and sleep earlier and then sleep it off. And then morning of, I felt great. So I got super fortunate there. Yeah, the day before was a stressful day for me though.
Yeah. How about you, Justin? How are you feeling race morning?
Yeah, so, you know, I had the butterflies galore. Like, this is my first LOTOJA. I was as nervous as all I could get out, but I was feeling pretty good. So I get made fun of on the team a lot of time for the music choices I listen to, like Taylor Swift and country. But like that morning, I put my headphones on, turned them up as loud as I could, and I listened to Eminem sing For the Moment until I collapsed. Like, I was so ready to bomb. And so I had all the butterflies, but was like just amped as could be. Down to a couple scoops of bucked up. I decided to do 2 scoops instead of 1, and I was wired to go. So.
I love that. Okay, Ryan, how about you?
I was nervous. Just purely from a standpoint of these 4 plus Zach are so strong. I just hope I can do whatever I can to hang on. So that was my mentality that day. I knew what to expect. I knew what the race was going to bring. I knew these guys were going to hammer. Short answer, I was very nervous.
Cool. Jason?
I was actually really relaxed and calm. I felt like our strategy was good. I'd done the race a few times before. I was confident in the strength of our guys up front, and you could kind of foresee the way the race was going to unfold. Even Spangler going off the front, because you just can't control him. He just like gets bored if he rides too slow after a while. It's just got to go. I think we all kind of just predicted how it was going to go, and it unfolded pretty close to how I thought. I mean, I had hoped that I wasn't going to drop my chain right at the start of the Salt KOM and have to chase back on, but you never know what you're going to get.
Oh my gosh. What luck. All right, very good. All right, let's talk about race day. So if you don't know, I'll probably include it in the introduction, but this group, the Cat 3-4, had the fastest times of the entire day. So their times even beat the pros. And maybe the top 9? Did you guys have the top 9 fastest times of the day? Is that about?
I actually think we went up to 14.
13, I think.
13 or 14, yeah. Our group, there was 13 of us across the line.
Yeah.
And Stu, can I say as well, I think I have the data right, so somebody can fact check me, but if you go back to as long as the course has been the course it is, I think Lang is the 19th fastest person ever on the course. I could be missing someone, but I think he's the 19th fastest ever, which make Todd the 20th and me the 24th, and you can kind of just stack past that. But
So crazy.
worth noting.
I went back, and I didn't see a time. I did go back too. I don't think there was ever a year where we'll call it a scrappier group beat the 1, 2, 3s either.
Yeah.
So that was kind of fun.
We left a lot out there.
Yeah.
Todd, did you guys not in 21? I thought you had.
No, we were 8 minutes off.
Gotcha.
We were 52. They were 45. We were 7 minutes off. So
Gotcha.
close.
Okay.
It was
Okay, let's break the race up into 3 sections. So first 65 miles. Let's talk about that. So you guys to Montpelier. Does somebody want to give a brief synopsis of what happened?
Yeah, I'm happy to take it.
Do it.
So
Let's go. Let's hear it.
we started out pretty strong. Nothing crazy. Not trying to drop everyone, but we were all in the front and setting a pretty good pace for the first little while. We did that all the way up to the top of Strawberry. There was a couple of other people that started pulling when it started climbing. But we did notice that whenever one of us wasn't in the front, in that first third, the pace slowed down. So we were cognizant of that and went to the front usually pretty shortly after that.
Right.
But nothing trying to drop tons of people. I would say we took the Strawberry not super crazy hard. Like we probably rolled over Strawberry with 40 to 50 of the 60 riders. So majority of the field still left, probably at least for me, I think it was like 3.8 watts per kilo, like pretty good pace, but not like all out effort. We were 9 minutes behind the pro on that first third of the race. So at that point, we were about 9 minutes back. So that means for us to leapfrog them 9 by the end, we made up 18 on the back, 2/3. But strong pace, but not crazy.
When we all stopped in Mink Creek, and it was like, who wants to stop? And everyone's like, well, you guys tell us when. And we kind of, from right there, was like, all right, people are kind of looking at us to call the shots. We're like, all right, we're going to stop. And instantaneous 50 of us stop, the Mink Creek, whiz spot right before that drop. And in into it. So I think it was pretty quick. People were just, we'll just let these guys up front go or pull, and keep the pace. And I said, maybe 6 others. It would probably those other 6 that finished with us. I remember seeing glimpses of Steed and Noodle and all them, right? So it was pretty quick. That pack was set, and then everyone else just off the back to Montpelier.
What they meant,
and that was the plan, honestly, all along. We talked about it at the start, like, hey, let's not dink around at the start. Let's keep a consistent pace. When we hit Strawberry, let's ride, high tempo, threshold-ish, not try and kill ourselves. Like, we'll drop people. I didn't think that many people would come over with us. Like, we rode a pretty solid pace into a headwind. So our time wasn't blazing fast, but we were into a headwind, and it was just a pretty strong group to start. I mean, I think we fatigued a lot of people, which is why they fell off later, even though they kind of made it that deep into the race. But that was always the plan, like steady threshold up the climbs and then keep steady after.
Well, I was just going to say, we've had a similar pace to that in previous years, and it has dropped. I mean, the most I've ever come over the top with is like 15. And so the fact that we still had 40 to 45 with us with the pace that we had set was very indicative of how strong the group was.
Because Lang and I, 2 years, a year prior, right? I usually have Strawberry, Salt, I'm redlining. Like, that's where I have to go all out to keep up. And I will, because I know what's ahead if I don't. I think last year, Lang, how many came over with us? We had 30. I think we had maybe 10, right? 15.
Yeah.
12, right? And that was part of it. We looked at before. I don't think we went as deep as some teams strategizing, stalking, whatnot. We had a pretty in-depth look of who was with us. There was some fast. I think that was it, just simply a fast group that everyone's done it before, experienced, and a lot of strong riders getting to that point.
And to put it in perspective too, we remember the Masters 45A group started a couple ahead of us. So I don't know what that is, 8 minutes ahead of us or whatever. We caught them about halfway up Strawberry, and we blew by them. I mean, that was like Montmany and Broderick and Dan Tonello and all those guys, and we caught them that quick. And it wasn't like we slowly caught them going up Strawberry. We blew by them. So we weren't sandbagging at all. We were going.
It was fast. And I think I was only a minute, or I was just sub-seconds off of my time last year. So it was almost a PR up there. It was fast. And that was that was tough last year too. So
it was fast, but we were also deliberate before about, where we wanted to redline, and push a little bit harder. And I don't remember, it was me and Ryan, it might've been you or it might've been Todd, but I remember spending maybe 10 minutes telling Justin to chill out up Strawberry. He'd go from 3.8 to 5 watts, and I'd Justin, dude, chill. We've got a long ways to go. Like, come back. It was a good portion of the climb, like yelling at you to come back to it. So
I'll give a little teaser. I'll speak more about that later. But we can keep going.
Nice.
So then,
so you guys roll into Montpelier. Everything goes smooth there. Like nothing weird. You guys had a good plan. No one got.
Yeah, rolling into Montpelier was fine. Everyone regrouped. Fast-paced Montpelier too. I think everyone had a good group pulling. Kind of everyone was joining in on the fun, I guess, there at that point, 10, 15 back. Quick exchange, and then we're always quick at the feed zone, so we're usually the first ones out anyway. And it was kind of a slow regroup, and then again, all right, who needs to take a quick break? So we did that, quick pee break right outside Montpelier. Again, everyone saw us doing it, so we kind of a mutual stop, right? It was at that point where it was like, look, if we can stop this entire group, no one was attacking. No one's going to try to attack, at the feed zones or at a pee stop. It was like, this is a solid group, right then and there. We knew right there we had a bunch of guys that wanted to work.
If there's anything I've seen, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, there's usually some dissension out on Strava, which is silly sometimes, about how the race unfolds if you are not part of the successful portion of that group. I'm not trying to call people complainers, but what I am saying is that no one that I have heard, and I get a lot of direct messages that no one sees about the team. No one that I've heard that was in your group has a bad word to say about the way this day unfolded. And I guess by what I'm saying is you guys led an incredible race and like set like people were just blown away at how fun the day was, how hard the day was, and how respectful the group rode together.
Mhm.
Like it's cool to hear all the comments come in. Like, so as I'm posting things to Instagram and Facebook and whatever, the guys that you rode with, as they respond to me saying like, so fun to ride with this group of dudes. Did you guys feel that during the race, or were you just like, oh, this is business as usual, here we are at LOTOJA?
No, I mean, even before, like, again, if you can coordinate 60 guys to stop and there's no one chipping to attack, or again, we did that twice, everyone can appreciate a good P stop. But that being said, it felt pretty quick. Like, okay, this is whoever's left at that point, which was still 30, 40 folks. Like everyone was already felt like pretty good friends, in my opinion.
Cool. All right. So,
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead. Who's going to say something?
Well, I was just going to say, we had the Team Real guys in there, and so there was kind of good rapport from the beginning. I had some friends that I knew. I feel like all of us knew a few guys. So we were all like very much aware of the plan, sticking to the plan, but also chatting with those that we knew. So it was a friendly basis from the very get-go. So,
Yeah. And I would say a lot of the guys like that I didn't know, like Seth, Steed, and Joe, and them, like super good dudes. Like as you ride in 9 hours with each other, you like become friends and share a little bit of your life story. And like I would love to ride with a lot of those dudes again, and totally would.
Mm-hmm.
So Noodle and stuff like that. So it was fun.
Yeah.
Okay, who's got play-by-play? We need Montpelier to Afton. That section.
Someone else take it. I do want to add.
Yeah.
Right outside of Montpelier, my legs started cramping up.
Oh,
Yeah.
What?
It was I've never cramped up before in my life. Like
So
and
Todd
like
and
that.
Todd and I coming out of Montpelier, and I'll just take this part as like a brief summary, and then people can expand on it. Todd and I looked at each other. I remember I turned to him and he goes, "Man, my legs are already seasoned up right after Montpelier." I was like, "Me too." Like insides of my legs were already gone. And both of us had never experienced that. That just kind of goes to show that we had kept a consistently tough pace from there. And I was dropping back in the line at that moment, and I had just had that conversation with Todd, and then dropping back, I see Spangler, and I go, "Hey man, how you feeling?" And he goes, "I'm freaking bored. I feel like I haven't ridden my bike all day." And I'm like, great. Like this is how the next, 30 miles is going to go. So that was right before we hit Geneva, and we start going up Geneva, and I'm in the pace line, and then I see Spangler come right up past me and goes, "Man, I'm going to hit this." And I'm like,
please don't.
I literally was like, "Please don't. Nobody's going to go hard on Geneva." And sure enough, he goes off the front, which was a testament to his strength. So, nothing against him for that. Most of us didn't follow him except for one of the riders that we also knew, Michael, was with him. And so we kind of let them drift away a little bit, stayed together with a pretty steady pace up Geneva. I know we set the fastest time up Geneva that day, and then mostly regrouped on the backside as you pass the post office in that little left-hand turn that you take.
That's right. We caught you guys on the descent, right? Is that what happened?
Yep.
Right.
Yeah. So I had gotten to the top, and I think close to the bottom of the descent is when
we were all
Just-
together.
just-
but I was solo for a little bit at that time. I think Michael had dropped back after a little bit.
Michael came back and asked me what you were doing, and I said, I said, honestly, he's just bored. Let him go.
But I think I'm like 12th all time now on that segment.
Justin got to the top of Geneva. He turned around, came back down.
Came back.
Yeah, man, he might as well have. Yeah.
But they all
I got to comment on that too. Like I was the one up front at Geneva and pulling. I was just trying to set a threshold pace, and Spangler came up to me on the front and he said, "I'm going to go." And I said, "Don't go. It's too early." And he went, and I just stayed steady, and nobody came around me. He just slowly rode away, and everybody was like, well, none of his teammates are going, so see you, bro.
Yeah.
I think you and I were kind of up. I think it was you and I up there with one or two other. For me, it was just trying to keep my legs moving, and then it kind of the pain, it went away. But it was nerve wracking. So anyway, so we get over Geneva. You what?
What happened on Salt? We got to keep moving.
So then we turn that corner. We start going up that steady incline as you get up to Salt. And a little bit more background. Before the race, we had all agreed to have a somewhat of a gentleman's agreement that if any of us had any issues until mile 100, we would all stay together, like a flat tire. Any of us had any issues. So because I think Salt starts at like 101, ends at 103. So right before Salt, we knew that was kind of where that gentleman's agreement ended, and we were all kind of on our own. And so gearing up for that climb, I remember I was like kind of grabbing salt pills from guys, like I think Jack Spangler, one of you guys shared them with me. And then we hit Salt, and it was very predictable that this was going to happen. But Spangler went off the front again because he was bored and set a pace that I hadn't seen up Salt before. And I want to say 5 to 6 to 7 guys went with him, who, if I remember correctly, were all a bunch of really, smaller guys that had more talent on the climbs, and were just these dudes that could just hammer up these climbs. And in the chase group was the rest of us. I think there were about 20 at the beginning, with a few people dropping off as it went. And I know Todd and Jack were there together, and I was just behind them. And riding next to me was Lang. As he mentioned, his chain dropped, and I was very confused because I wasn't, and he can share more about this. He was there 1 second, then the next he was gone. Same with Zach. I know his stomach was giving him issues at that point, and he went solo from then on. But from my perspective, I was just doing everything I could to keep up with Jack and Todd. And my favorite part of the day, as I mentioned on Strava, was Todd, as we were about to crest, started doing some excellent inspirational speech to himself, which I think Jack and I benefited from. I've never heard someone, it wasn't growling, but it was just like just amp it up, like, let's go, like, come on,
come on,
like, don't
Todd,
drop.
come on.
And I was probably like 5 to 10 feet behind him. And I heard that, and I was like, I've never gone to a deeper, darker place, because I was like, I can't lose Todd. Like, he's inspired me. So it was great. And then somebody else can take it from there. So
we got to the top. We were about a minute. You could see him. I don't know, what were you, maybe a quarter mile up? Not terrible. It wasn't a huge gap, manageable, where we thought we could catch him on the bottom. So we get over the top. I think all of us made it over at the same time, right? And then it was just kind of game on. And they were always so close, 30 seconds or so the whole way into Afton, right? And it's like, well, honestly, at that point, I kind of thought, I was like, well, this is our group to the finish. I wasn't sure if we were going to catch them. I kind of lost hope at that point. But then there was always that, okay, what do we do in Afton, right? Because it's not Thane anymore. Usually you stop in Thane, skip Alpine. We're like, okay, well, we're going to skip Afton. Let's just see what happens, right? We were prepared to skip it if we needed to, grab 3 bottles in Montpelier. We all made it through, well, thought we did. I know Jack had a little incident, went over tipped over. What happened? Yeah, Jack. But coming out, it was only Lang and I. Like, we look over and it's just Lang and I, and we can see them cresting the corner. They turn in front of us. We're right there. So Lang and I see them that close. So it was just game on from there. And we thought, okay, these guys are behind us. We'll catch. Lang and I took off. And again, so close getting through Afton. One of their guys in your group, Spangler, you guys almost got hit by a car, right?
Yeah.
And one of your guys got taken out.
Strava, yeah.
So, we're with the motorcade at this time. There's 6 or 7 of us. Mm-hmm. And this van pulls in front, cuts off the motorcade, making a right-hand turn. We're on the shoulder, cuts us off, and one dude, Sebastian was his name, and he was strong. He was pulling for a bunch, started falling because it cut him off, slammed on his brakes, wheels seized. He fell on this guy wearing a white jersey. I can't remember his name. The white guy stayed up, but then he ended up sliding, and I think he hit the car, ran into the back of him. And we all went around. Luckily, I was on the outside, so I could easily get around.
Yep.
But it was like, it shocked everyone a little bit. The motorcade said that we had 56 seconds. And then like right after that, and we all slowed down. I think the chase group was only like 30 seconds behind.
We got to about 20 something. Yeah. So just Lang and I that was probably the hardest effort of the day. That's where we picked up a lot. We were chasing you. You knew we were chasing. I was going 400 or 500 watts, probably burned a little bit more than I should. But then that other group behind us showed up, which was
we that whole time you were doing that, we were like
it.
10 seconds behind you. We could see you, and it was like these guys are going, and it was me and Jack and like six other guys.
Mm-hmm.
So
but
that Sebastian dude,
yeah,
sadly had to, he ended his race.
Yeah, he DNF'd.
Yeah, we passed him. He was getting up right when we passed him. It kind of rattled us, and then I think it took us until Thane. It took us 30 miles to catch you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was right at Etna. We caught him at Etna.
Even after we regrouped.
I can't believe you guys chased that long.
It was so close. It was one of those we could see him. It was right there. There was never a time where we couldn't see him.
Why didn't you just text Spangler? Just be like, "What are you doing?"
We were hoping he would sit up. It was
so I was in the front group, Stu. So I looked over at the motorcade and I said, "Were there any dudes wearing jerseys like me?" And he said, "There's a couple." And so whenever I got to the front, and I think all the guys kind of knew this, but like I put in a good effort, but not a best effort. Like I would hold 320, but I wouldn't pull for 3, 4, 5 minutes at 400.
Yeah.
Right. So when I knew I had friends in the back, Seth Steed asked me later when everyone regrouped, he's like, "Were you waiting for your friends?" And I was like, "Oh, no." Yeah. Like,
but that would honestly, I think
I got reinforcements in the back. Like,
that we gained a lot of time in that effort. That was, we were averaging 30 miles an hour. Yeah. It was kind of a cross backwind, nothing too wild. It helped, but then we did finally catch kind of that sigh of relief. Okay, we're back in it, right? Then we get to Alpine. You come around that bend. Michael hit a pothole, flatted.
Oh, what?
Yeah, terrible.
Yeah.
That was he was like one of our, by now it was like 15 of us. Again, all the guys, pretty much everyone that finished with us was there. I don't think we lost anyone else.
Okay, let's hear what happens up Snake to the finish line.
Yeah, so quick.
Jack or Lang's got to give that synopsis because I feel like
Let's hear it, Jason.
Yeah, please go.
Well, I mean, backing up just a little bit. We did let up a ton. Once we caught that group, we were all like, "Okay, this is the group, so let's chill out for a second." And in reality, we probably should have just kept the pace up, and we probably could have done something really special with the time because we were like sub 8:30 pace at that moment, and we all knew it, and we just decided like, this is the group. So, our goal was 8:45, not knowing like how much more special sub 8:30 was. So anyways, Does anybody
know the literary phrase foreshadowing?
Foreshadowing right there.
Yeah.
Well, no, so real quick.
I'll leave it at that.
Before we get to Alpine, coming around that bend, we were all just kind of rolling in, it was right before you take the right turn to the stop. I had my times from the previous year. Yeah. And it was like, okay, mile 180, we were at 6 hours, whatever. I can't remember the exact numbers, but I told everyone, I was like, if you guys want to get sub 9, we can do it. Right. And I kind of yelled it to a few people and a lot of, oh yeah, let's do it. Let's go. Everyone still had that fire. And then did we stop in Alpine? We did.
Yeah, briefly.
We did stop in Alpine. That was a feed zone.
Okay, Lane.
We continue on.
Sorry, that was my fault.
That's okay. So we stopped real quick in Alpine. Holly actually missed me in Alpine. I didn't have any support, so
I knew that. I was getting texts.
She had called Stu. She was actually just sitting in the parking lot there
with her frazzle.
Yeah, she thought that the pros were going to come in before us, and she didn't see anybody.
Mhm.
And so she just assumed this group coming in was the pros, and we were next. Our trackers were off. And so I stopped, didn't get anything. Luckily, Spangler had a small bottle that he loaned me to get me through. But so we stop real quick. We start heading down Snake, and it's just a good group. Everybody's still working. Nobody's, really hammering to try and get away. Spangler plays some games every once in a while when he gets bored and really pushes the pace for a second. And we all kind of stayed together and rolled really well all the way down Snake until maybe Welch, you want to take over right after we get to the bottom of Snake.
Yeah. So we're coming out of Snake around that roundabout at Hoback, and super grateful that construction's done, because now the road's very, very smooth. And there's that little kicker that we used to forego when the road was under construction,
Right.
that kicks up a little bit. And there had been an individual in our group that was very loose cannon all day. He was a new rider, and I won't speak too much about him because I don't want to speak poorly, but he was just a new rider. So he was still learning how to ride in a group, but was like insanely strong. And so clearly he was in the front group and was strong enough to stay with us, but was a little bit squirrely. So at one point during that kicker, he was in front of me, and he crossed the back wheel of the guy in front of him and lost control of his front wheel, which jetted him basically sideways, like perpendicular to what we were all doing in a 2-wide. And I was on the outside, and he just laid across right in front of me, basically like a speed bump. And I rolled over his back and just went down on my left-hand side, and hit pretty hard. I didn't get a concussion or anything, but I don't remember like a ton of the details because it was all just the adrenaline was rushing. But I know I hit pretty hard on my hip because it's still purple, and then crunched my helmet a little bit.
You popped
Thankfully,
back
my
up
bike
on your
was mostly
feet.
okay.
You did a backflip onto your feet. I saw that right to the left of me. It was hard, but then you popped back up.
Yeah. And that was, so like I said, that little kicker right after Hoback. So I think it was mile like 181. But when I got up, my bike's chain was stuck in my front derailleur pretty good, like more than I had, dealt with in the past. So it took me about a minute or two to get it unstuck. And we had a car and like 2 motos that were right there that were like all trying to help me. Anyway, so I could tell that the group ahead of me had kind of slowed down, but the guy who had crashed.
As soon as that happened, we yelled. We said, "Hey, guys went down. Let's like slow down."
Yeah.
And everyone did.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the guy that I had rolled over, who caused the crash, hopped back up pretty quickly. I assumed he was just fine, and I know he caught you guys, and you can speak more to that later. But he actually broke his clavicle in that moment and finished the race with a broken clavicle. So he definitely got it worse than me, but did catch them because they had been slow rolling. And when he caught them, I have heard from a few of you guys that the marshal had said, "Oh, the other guy's out," right? Like, so their assumption was that my day was done.
Both guys. He said both guys are out. He told me, he said, both of those guys back there are out. Their race is done.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So then we started rolling again. And then, you have that big drop and then that next kicker. It was right before that. We look back and you guys were both in the same helmet. And
they were in red jerseys.
You're both in red.
He had a red
white
jersey
helmets. So we're like, he's coming. This is Welch. He's on his way. So we kind of slowed. No one attacked up that kicker, which that's kind of the last hill. There are some attacks always on that hill. And no one did. And that's where he about caught us. We're like, oh crap, where's Welch?
Yeah.
Well,
so I could see you guys. I was probably 3/4 of a mile behind you. And I was putting down some major watts to try to catch, but sure enough, it was a fool's errand just because you guys started going again. And I came in, I think 5 or 6 minutes behind you ultimately, but I'll let somebody else take it from here because that was my day. So
Jack, you take it.
Ooh. Well, fill in where I'm missing anything. It's a blur. But no, I mean, I remember Justin saying like, "Oh, it's the other guy. It's not Ryan, right? Like, let's burn him." Right.
Yeah.
I was pretty mad. Like at that moment, like when he took Welch down, I went back to where this guy was and I said some things in anger that I probably shouldn't have. And Like, yeah, we'll keep that one a secret. But I said some choice words and then went back up with the group and looked at the guys and said, let's burn them.
Let's burn them.
And so that's what.
So Justin definitely started turning up the heat, and I actually felt pretty good at that point. I think a lot of us were in relatively good shape, especially having slow rolled a bit. And I took it upon myself to cover some of those. And Joe Carden, one of the other guys in our group was great at kind of helping with that. And I think Justin, I think he thought different people were behind him. So like I'd be behind him or Todd or Jason would be behind him, and he wouldn't recognize it was one of us, right? And so he'd like do an attack, right? And we'd have to cover on Justin, and then he'd do it on somebody else. It's like attack after attack after attack for the last.
Jack gets the award for bridging more than anyone else, because I essentially in the last like 15, 20 miles, I'm seeing who has legs left.
Over the bridge, the path, it was fast. Through the condos, all those kind of back roads.
And then I think Joe was behind me at one time, and I looked back and I was like, I threw my elbow out for him to come, and he didn't come. And I turned back and I said, there's two reasons I'm up here. I'm either pulling a friend or I'm trying to hurt somebody. Which one are you going to do? And so I threw my elbow after saying that again, and he didn't come again. So I was like, fine, stood up and put down a good.
That's because he was back there. He was back there weeping. He was crying.
I was actually next to Joe when that was going on, and I looked at him and I said, I'm not going.
For two reasons.
I'm not going.
Either pull a friend or to hurt you. Pick which one. It is like, that's the reason I'm in front, is I'm either trying to lead out one of my friends to victory or.
So none of you won. Big spoiler alert. Talk about the final. What happened? What, I guess not what went wrong. Like, how did it just play out? Because I know Lang had said final kilometer. It was
at the cone. So like, we all shuffled down in the cones. I told someone, I was like, hey, I got to come in. I about hit one of the cones coming, and we're going so fast, and then it funnels down. It was like at that sign, he took off.
Wow.
Like I looked over to the right,
like full gas. He just went, dude.
And at that point, I was like, look, I'm happy with my time. I had nothing left in me. Like usually you get to that 2 kilometers, you're excited. This, I was like, I just wanted to be done. Like it was,
and we'd lost Justin to a flat.
Yeah.
We lost Spangler. That was
out of the bike path. Right after the dirt section, we were making a right-hand turn. I was on the outside. Some guy in a pink jersey looks at me. He's like, "This would be the worst place to get a flat." I'm not kidding you. Within a second of that, I hit a pothole super hard. Todd and Lang, I hit the same one. I was like. And then I yelled out, please seal, please seal, please seal. And Lang's like, no way, that's sealing. All the air went straight out of my tire. I started my timer on my Apple Watch right then to see what the lapse time would be. Threw a CO2 cartridge in my tire. It came directly out because I sliced the sidewall and had to wait on the side of the road for 10 minutes for the wheel support vehicle. So I was just.
That's why you just don't ride tubes. What are you still riding tubes for?
No, I was tubeless.
It
didn't seal.
I'm just kidding.
So what happened? So he took off. Lang chased him. Who was in that? It was Soup, a guy from Logan. He's a good neighbor of mine. Told me, say, hey, Soup Destler, watch out. Great guy. Turns out he was really fun to ride with. It was Soup, Steed, Lang. Noodle, right? And then Mike Price, another solid guy, grew up with him, and me. And then was there anyone behind us? Maybe 1 or 2. So there's about 8 of us coming into the finish.
There were 11 of us coming into
11.
The finish.
Okay,
it
11.
was the guy who crashed out Ryan, and then Lang, and then me at the kilometer when Seth went.
So they were the 4 of you guys. There was 1/12 of a mile. I don't know, 200 yards already in that gap. And I was looking, I'm like, is there 5 guys or 4 guys there? And there was 1 guy in front of me. So I kind of gave it one more gas, thinking, okay, maybe there's a 5th spot still. Turns out Lang was that 5th spot. But it was, you guys were up there a ways. There was no way we were going to catch.
Dude, I'll be honest. I thought I had that race in the bag. I was sitting second wheel
Mhm.
coming in, feeling like I had pretty good legs. And then Steed attacks on the inside with a kilometer to go out of nowhere. And kudos to him, he stuck it, but he got around. By the time I came around that dude right in front of me, he had a big gap and I was pushing and I wasn't closing fast enough. And I looked around and there was nobody around me. And I thought, well, at least I have second place locked up. So I sat back down in my seat, and then I start to see other people come. I tried to get back up, but with 20 meters to go, they caught me.
Yeah.
I mean,
Freak.
I should have never sat back down. It was just so dumb.
Shoot.
But kudos to Seth. He launched and he freaking stuck it. It's so hard to keep watts that long at the end of 200 miles.
Money. Like as it unfolded and you guys are all finished, obviously an incredible day. Is there anybody that didn't feel like accomplished? I mean, there's no way you guys felt that way, but I mean, are you guys all pretty positive about how this day turned out?
Oh, it was great. We were all hanging out at the end. You know, we all had 12 new, well, we'll say 9 new friends, right?
One new enemy for me, but hey.
Yeah. And like Brandon Nilsson, Noodle, that's Noodle. You've read about him, you know about him. He's that guy you always hear about at LOTOJA. It's like we finally got to meet him and ride with him, you know, kind of as a great story, you know, why he was riding. You know, his mom passed away a few months ago, and you know, he's kind of doing that for her, you know. You kind of learn these things about, you know, guys that you know, you just met, you know, and hung out with everyone. I think that's as fun as the race is hanging out after, right?
Yeah.
You know, meeting everyone's, you know, support, whoever that is. You know, that's I look forward to that honestly almost as much as the race itself.
So
I mean, were you guys all? Oh, go ahead, Ryan.
Well, I was just going to say, thinking about the race as a whole, I would say it was probably my favorite year so far, solely for the fact that we came in with a singular goal and we accomplished it. And when you look at, you know, how much each one of us contributed to that goal, you can't say any of us had any more of a part to play than anyone else. And so I think we all can feel very good about the fact that we had that sub-9 goal and we all had a major part to play in achieving it. I think the only thing for me that I keep coming back to, obviously because I wasn't able to be there at the very end, is control the controllables, and then anything else that happens is just a result of the day, right? And so, you know, you'll never be able to control when someone goes down in front of you and you can't get away, or you'll never control when you hit a pothole. And those are just the things that you have to let roll off and just be satisfied with the wins that you do have, which, you know, for each one of us, we can say that we've achieved something that less than 30 people in the whole history of LOTOJA have done if we truly are top 25. And so I have nothing to say but positive about this year. And I think each one of us controlled what we could control, which was essentially the entire day. So,
and to his point, it's like, oh, okay, we could have gone, you know, we shouldn't have waited so long. There was 2 minutes we could have made up. There was, you know, well, you think about how everything has to go right, though, to that day. You can't start splitting hairs thinking, oh, we could have shaved 5 minutes here, 10 minutes here. Well, we could have had a headwind and blown up everything, right? So
I think it's hard. Todd and I talked about this a little bit too. Like 5 or 10 minutes at LOTOJA is so much time. I mean, like Sean Montmany had a great year this year. I think he was like 9:05 or something like that. Super fast time. We blew past those guys at Strawberry. And we still didn't beat him by that much, you know, like it takes so much effort. The effort between, you know, a 9 time and an 8:45 time and an 8:45 to an 8:30, it's a lot. Like there's a lot of energy.
Mm-hmm.
Jack, did you feel accomplished? Were you happy with how it turned out? Uh-oh.
You know, you always like look back on it and wonder like, what could you have done a little bit differently? My sprint it hurts me to think about. Like I came in third wheel behind Lang, and I thought there's no better place in the world because this dude could out sprint me. So I just need to hold on to his wheel. And when Seth went past him, I stood to catch Seth, and I just cramped. Like I don't cramp. I cramped like I'd never cramped before. I literally seized up, and I like limped. I went from 3rd to 10th in that group, and just limped through. And I was the happiest coming through the finish line that I'd ever been on a bike. It was the funnest day I've ever had. It was so much fun working with everybody all day. And so I reflect on that, and it's kind of weird to explain the day to people, because when you pull away teams and you pull away everything, and you just say like, what was your place, right? Like, I was 10th place. And the immediate reaction is like, oh, bummer, like next year maybe you got another show. But to me, I'm like, it was amazing. I had a great time with all you guys. I kind of experienced everything on the bike, from just working hard all day, meeting new people, cramping at the end, crashing halfway through, like bridging, attacking. It's like everything you could hope for in a day. And in some ways, I'm like glad that we didn't get to get even better times, because it's a better goal for next year. It's a reason for all of us to come back, and it's a reason to, bug Jason about it when Jason tries to go up to the 1, 2, 3s, or Spangler tries to cat up or whatever. It's a reason to go for something again.
I mean, it doesn't have to be. You don't have to have a 9:45 time because no one else wants to work. Is I think what we've made a statement on, right?
Yeah. Well, it was really fun. I mean, to watch. It was incredible to watch. Really fun to hear about how you guys planned and prepared. And then obviously watching the day unfold and listening to everybody love the experience they had. I think that says something, like to watch all those people who were with you talk about like funnest day, best race, coolest LOTOJA, like to work that hard, and that you guys set the standard to follow is really fun. Like just a cool experience that you guys got to have together. So big kudos. Any final thoughts before we wrap up? Final thoughts. Party
30 next year.
Oh boy, here it comes.
I think
gotta go.
for it. I think we all could do it.
Hey, like we said,
people that we rode with, they could do it. There's so many strong people. Let's go for it.
A lot has to go right? Listen, remember what Weld said. A lot has to go right, and if we go for it next year, and
I'm telling you,
we're still going to have a good time.
We could all sign up for the 35 plus cycle sport. There'd be 60 of us going for an 8:30.
Hey man, I'm 30, so I can't do 35.
Oh, sorry, right?
Ryan's in the juniors, but
yeah.
But I'm excited to do it again. It was such a fun day. Like I've told a bunch of the guys, like it was a top 5 day, ever. And I'm ready. I got the bug to do it again next year, and hopefully we can all make it through to the finish together, and let's make it happen. So,
all right. Anybody else? Any parting words? Well done, boys. That was fun to chat. I'm sorry we didn't get everybody on here, but fun to hear from you guys. Well done. Nice work.
Thank you.
Grateful for each one of y'all.
Thanks, guys.
It was a lot of fun. Thanks, guys.
Where are we riding in the morning?